I think I have a Bigfoot problem. Throughout the days, we take our 2 dogs outside to their kennels so they can get out of the house for a while and run and play and such. These are not small dogs. One is a black lab husky mix, and the other one is a full-blooded Staffordshire Terrier. The kennels are placed at the edge of the yard near the woods. These woods are big, large enough to take a day to go hiking through them. Lately, when it gets dark, the dogs seem to be on edge. They will bark and whine towards the house to come in. At first I figured they just wanted to get back into the house, but now I'm thinking they're actually scared. 3 nights ago, when I went to get them, it was already dark, but we have a security light, so it isn't pitch black or anything. I got to the front of the first kennel and noticed both dogs were being quiet. They always bark at me excitedly when I go to get them, but they were dead silent. This weirded me out a bit, but not to the point of being scared. I will admit that there was a certain uneasiness in the air though, something I can't explain, but it sort of felt electric, like I was about to be shocked. The longer I was there, the more uneasy I felt. I started getting the first dog, the lab, out and heard a heavy snap in the woods near the kennels. I froze. The dogs froze. By this time, I was so on edge that if someone had spoken, I would have jumped, screamed, and possibly ran. The creepy feeling in the air just kept getting thicker. The lab had her bushy tail stuffed underneath her and was whining. This didn't make me feel any better. The pit bull was as far away from the woods as she could get, whimpering for me to come get her. I can only take 1 dog in at a time because they get too excited and will sometimes try to fight, so I avoid that at all costs. I felt so bad leaving the pitty there by herself, but I had to do it. And as I walked away, she barked this high-pitched whining type of bark at me that I had never heard her do before. The lab couldn't get to the house quick enough. I went back for the other one and dreaded every step, as her door is right at the base of the woods. I would have to turn my back to the woods to open her door and get her out. The air felt heavy and stale, with an unpleasant smell like a dead skunk as I approached the kennel. Another snap, and I was about ready to run for it, but I didn't want to leave my dog, who had her head down defensively facing the woods. I could barely make it. To be honest, it felt like I was trying to walk through water. I was terrified by the time I reached the door. I heard heavy breathing behind me as I got my dog out. She was scared too, but started growling behind me. I was frozen in place. The breathing continued for a minute before I heard steps starting to come towards us. We both took off at the same time. A terrifying scream came out of the base of the woods. I didn't dare look back. I just ran. My pity pulled me all the way back to the house. I got in, flipped off all the lights, and stared out the window at the woods. I could see something moving slightly, but just out of the light. It moved back and forth for about 5 minutes, then disappeared. It took me forever to fall asleep that night because I was so scared that every little noise freaked me out. The next night, I went to get my dogs earlier, right around dusk. I thought all was good until I was getting my pit bull out. A huge snapping sound, like a tree branch had just been snapped in half, rang out. It sounded pretty far away, so I just hurriedly got my dog and started toward the house. A few steps away from the kennel, I heard something big start charging towards me from inside the woods. We ran again, and it appeared to follow us for so long, then retreated back. Now, every night since then, I hear sounds coming out of the woods, like branches breaking and being thrown around, knocking on trees and roaring. I am absolutely terrified. I no longer even take my dogs down. I just take them for walks during the day and make sure we're all in before dusk. I don't know what to do.
La Llorona. I once embarked on a journey in Mexico for the cherished memory of visiting my beloved grandmother. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an ethereal glow over the cobblestone streets, I found myself seated comfortably in a cozy armchair. I sat there, ready to hear her captivating tale unfold. My grandmother's tale began during her childhood, when she was a young girl of 8 or maybe 9 years old. In those days, her mother would often assign her the task of fetching water from the nearby river. While this duty was not particularly favorable in her eyes, she understood the importance of heeding her mother's words and also carrying out the task each time. One fateful evening, the darkness outside seemed more profound than ever before. With a touch of trepidation, my grandmother approached her mother, pleading for respite from her usual chores. Their household was running low on water, and a grand celebration loomed on the horizon. They needed an ample supply of it. Reluctantly, my grandmother ventured outside, her heart brimming with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. As she stood by the river, filling her bucket, a peculiar sound caught her attention. A faint, yet sorrowful sobbing that permeated the stillness of the night. Intrigued and guided by her compassionate nature, my grandmother peered into the darkness, determined to uncover the source of this mysterious crying. To her surprise, she stumbled upon a figure, a woman, her back turned, huddled in anguish, while her hands concealed her face. Driven by empathy, my grandmother set aside her bucket and cautiously approached the grieving stranger. With a tender voice, she uttered, "Señora, ¿está usted bien? Ma'am, are you all right?" The woman's sobs abruptly ceased, and she pivoted to face my grandmother. Her hands parted, revealing a ghastly face. The stranger's eyes were devoid of pupils, replaced instead by an unsettling emptiness. Her ghostly white face, adorned with jagged yellow teeth, sent shivers down my grandmother's spine. Overwhelmed by terror, my grandmother let out a gasp. Her instinct propelled her into a desperate sprint. Clutching her bucket tightly, she raced back home, with her heart pounding in her chest. When dawn broke, the sun rays pierced through the curtains. She awoke, hoping that the previous night's encounter was merely a figment of her imagination, a nightmare that dissipated with the first light of day. Unfortunately, it wasn't. Anxious and filled with apprehension, she descended the stairs and entered the kitchen. There, she found her mother, the only soul awake at that early hour. The residual fear etched upon my grandmother's face didn't go unnoticed. Sensing her distress, her mother knelt down, enveloping her in a warm embrace. In a hushed voice, barely above a whisper, she shared words that resonated deeply with my grandmother. I saw her too. From that moment onward, the duty of retrieving water from the outside world fell exclusively upon my grandmother's brothers. The encounter with this enigmatic woman had become a shared secret, a bond forged between mother and daughter. As time wove its tapestry, the memory remained etched in their hearts, a testament to the mysterious wonders that lay beyond the realm of the ordinary. Every time my grandmother passed by its glistening waters, she couldn't help but cast a fleeting glance over her shoulder, half expecting to catch a glimpse of La Llorona. Though life moved forward, and the years brought new tales to be woven into the tapestry of her existence, the memory of that chilling encounter lingered, forever imprinted upon the fabric of her being. Thus, my grandmother's story serves as a testament to the enduring power of compassion and the unexplained mysteries that reside in the shadows. Her tale continues to be shared, ensuring the memory of that supernatural encounter never fades. and that the lessons it imparts are passed down from generation to generation. Slenderman. In the tranquil embrace of our serene residential condo, nestled among the hills, resided my family. My parents, myself, and my younger sister, who was 17 at the time. Our abode, a haven of comfort, seemed impervious to the chaos that occasionally swirled beyond its boundaries. One fateful day, as I returned home from work, a powerful windstorm raged through the neighborhood. Nature's fury manifested in the form of uprooted trees and swirling leaves that blanketed the streets. With caution, I maneuvered through the debris, ensuring I wouldn't stumble upon the unexpected carpet of nature's cast-offs. Across the street, an empty lot lay barren, a silent divide between our residential enclave and the neighboring property. Curiously, as I gazed at the pile of pine needles amassed in front of our house, a realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. Despite having the neighbors on both sides of our homes, it was peculiar that only our doorstep bore the burden of nature's remnants. The neighboring households seemed untouched by the wind, suggesting that no one had yet ventured out to clean the debris. A reasonable assumption, given the persistent gusts still surged. In a sudden twist of fate, the wind stopped its howling, and an eerie stillness settled upon the atmosphere. As dusk approached, an inexplicable change pervaded the ambient lighting around my house, casting an otherworldly glow. It was at this precise moment that a disquieting sensation engulfed me. It felt as though unseen eyes were fixed upon my every move. A wave of sickness and dizziness washed over me, accompanied by mesmerizing bursts of fireworks that danced at the edge of my vision. I leaned against my car for support and stumbled toward the safety of my front door, narrowly avoiding a potential collapse. High blood pressure, a long-standing companion since my teenage years, was an easy scapegoat for such episodes, but I didn't dwell on it long. Once inside the sanctuary of my home, I crumbled to the floor, regaining my composure. Minutes ticked past as I stared at the closed door, my mind grappling with the inexplicable events of the evening. Eventually, I summoned the willpower to rise, securing the lock with a click, determined to carry on with the night. Hours passed, and I found myself engrossed in a game of League of Legends with my sister. However, as the night wore on, a peculiar movement outside the empty lot caught my attention. A subtle shift in the shadows amidst the sparse trees. Involuntarily, I gasped, fixating on the figure that emerged from the darkness. A tall, pallid entity devoid of eyes or facial features, clad in a mysterious black blazer. Shadows clung to its form as if clinging to an unseen tether. A reflexive glance toward my sister and a call for her attention followed. But when my gaze returned to the vacant terrain, it stood empty, as if taunting my senses. Shaking off the unnerving encounter, I summoned the courage to ask my sister if she would join me in slumbering within the safety of my room, to which she agreed. A week crept by, each passing day tinged with an undercurrent of foreboding that encircled my home. Yet oddly enough, when I arrived in the evenings, there were moments of unusual clarity, a stark contrast to the darkness. As I unloaded my belongings from the car on one of these evenings, my gaze involuntarily drifted towards the empty lot again, where I witnessed a woman across the way, her anguished cries piercing into the air as she vigorously closed her windows, shutting out an unseen menace. Her frantic actions startled me momentarily, propelling me to hasten my retreat towards my own house. Burdened with my silent fears, I chose to keep the strange occurrences to myself. However, my sister approached me the following day, her countenance filled with concern. She recounted a nightmare that tormented her, an unsettling vision of my descent into madness, haunted by the looming presence of a figure known as Slenderman. The words chilled me to the bone, and a wave of dizziness washed over me once more. I explained the series of events that unfolded, hoping to find solace and shared understanding. Yet my sister dismissed it all with a laugh, assuring me that Slenderman was nothing more than a figment of fiction. Resolving to put the unsettling incidents behind me, I immersed myself in the mundane routines of life. However, the universe had other plans in store. On one eventful day, as I swung open the door to my house, a colossal rodent darted past me. It measured nearly 60 centimeters from head to tail and hailed from the nearby woods, a creature protected by environmental laws. Pursuing the intruder, I cornered it on a metal table in our kitchen, only to be confronted by an even more unnerving spectacle. The rodent gnarled and bared its teeth, poised to attack me. In a moment of sheer terror, I let out a scream, hoping to assert dominance. Unexpectedly, the creature halted its aggressive stance, its attention shifting to something behind me. A chill crawled up my spine as I slowly turned to face the void that lay between myself and the exit. To my bewilderment, there was nothing there, an emptiness that defied rational explanation. In retreat, the rodent leaped from the table, landed awkwardly, and scampered through the rear door, vanishing into the night. My sister, a witness to this bizarre encounter, was visibly shaken. She queried me about the inexplicable incident, prompting me to reveal my observation that the creature had never ventured so close to me before, always maintaining a healthy fear. It was then that my sister, her eyes reflecting a mixture of curiosity and fear, uttered words that sent a shiver down my spine. Maybe there was something even more frightful than you outside. From that night onward, sleep became a struggle, haunted by elusive dreams that depicted the tall, shadowy figure lurking amidst us. In this realm, my dwelling radiated an otherworldly light that repelled the enigmatic entity, compelling it to retreat to the depths of the woods. With each passing day, its presence receded, leaving me to ponder the reasons for its departure and why it chose our home in the first place. I can only hope that what I was seeing wasn't real, but at the end of the day, I know it was.